Alright, Shalom. This is Brother Nasai. Coming back at you with another video through Spring Power about Shimmy Shai. As always, Lord, will not praise. Let's be edifying to the Lord's elect. Already been started. I'm going to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, by Shimmy Shai, by Shimmy Kakadash. I'm going to give double honor to the Apostle Elders, Great Millstone, who will teach well. And peace and salutations to Yakum on the 4 ones, pushing truth and sincerity and diligence. Shalom, shalom. Alright, so this is basically going to be a continuation of a lesson I had did, basically going into Adam, right? I did the sons of God, going into like Adam, right? Tracking the lineage, showing that Adam had the law and the name of Yahweh Shemel Shai in his time, right? And I tracked it all the way down to Noah, right? So now we're going to track it down from Noah to Abraham, right? Showing that lineage of the sons of God, like we got up here, Genesis the 5th chapter, the descendants of Adam, right? I read this I ended it off in the last video here, and I'm gonna start this video off here. I'm gonna read the beginning. I'm gonna jump down to show that Noah is a direct descent from this lineage, right? So it says, this is the book of the generations of Adam, right? It says, in the day that the Most High created man, in the likeness of the Most High made he him. Male and female created he them, and blessed them, and called their name Adam, and the day when they were created. And Adam lived 130 years and begat a son in his own likeness, after his image, and called his name Seth, right? It says, and in the days of Adam, after he had begotten Seth, were 800 years, and he begat sons and daughters. So Adam had more sons and daughters, but you know, you continue to read and you see how he died, and then that passed on, that righteousness passed on from Seth to Enos, right? And we just keep reading. I'm gonna skip all the way down to the point that I want to start, that we ended off with, was Noah. It says, and Lamech, right, lived 182 years and begat a son, right? And another thing that we noticed too by reading, going into the time of Noah, we read that like Methuselah, right, he lived 969 years, right? 969 years, right? And he died, right? So the lifespan of a man was great in that time, right? But as we continue to go on, right, we learned that what? Through a process of time and through wickedness, right, so on and so forth, we were reduced. And the age of a man, right, his lifespan became shorter, right? Because one thing that the Lord has said is that my spirit shall not always strive with man. So in that time, we see that man began to go off, wickedness increased in the earth, and so did death, right? So it says, and he called his name Noah. It says, saying, this same shall come for us concerning our work and toil of our hands, because of the ground which the Lord had cursed. It says, and Lamech lived after he begat Noah 595 years and begat sons and daughters. And in the days of Lamech was 777 years, and he died. And Noah was 500 years old. And Noah begat Shem, Ham, and Japheth, right? So we see that Noah begat Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and we'll be trickling on down that history of the lineage of Shem, right, down to Abraham, right? So we're gonna go to the next chapter, right? So we see that when you're reading the 5th chapter, from the 1st to the 5th chapter is history and reality, right? Well, a lot of people like to, when they jump to the 6th chapter, when we read this, we see that what they start to go into like the Anunnaki, the Nephilim, which is another topic. You know, I don't want to spend too long on that, but it goes. They start to teach that this chapter is like what's the word I'm looking for? Like a fantasy. It doesn't jump to fantasy, it's reality. When you read it, it goes into those giants in that time, which goes into Nepal, which means fallen ones, right? Meaning that we will fall from our state, right? Because the sons of God in this time, right, they went after the daughters of men, went into the idols, went into their gods, right? And you know, went outside of the order of Yahweh Shemel Shai. But what we see here is that Noah kept that way. So when we read, it says from the 5th chapter that we're reading down, it was passed, everything was passed on down to Noah, right? Showing that lineage in the 5th chapter, which leads into the 6th chapter, right? In Noah's time, showing the sons of God and that history that will lead to the flood on down. You see? So what we're going to see is that Noah, right, which in his time was the only one that had kept and followed that way that was pleasing unto Yahweh Shemel Shai. We're just going to get the key points, right, to show that Noah was pleasing in the eyesight of Yahweh Shemel Shai, and he's likened to what what I'm about to say, damn. He is of that lineage of the sons of God in his time, and that the giants then received the ways of righteousness, right? And those giants were also, right, Israelites, right, sons of God in this time, right? But Noah received that way of righteousness. As a matter of fact, I get a precept real quick going into that. Real quick. To show you that, that they didn't receive it in that time, only Noah, right? This is Sirach 16 and verse 6. It says, right, Sirach 16, yeah, Sirach 16 and verse 16 and verse 5. It says, many such things have I seen with mine eyes, and mine ear hath heard greater things than these. It says, in the congregation of the ungodly shall a fire be kindled, and in the rebellious nation wrath is set on fire. He was not pacified toward the old giants. Those old giants is those same ones that we read about here in Genesis, the 6th chapter, which giants just goes into Nepal, which means the fallen ones, right? Because we fell from our state, right? So it says in the congregation of the ungodly shall fire be kindled. So like I read that, it says, and he was not pacified toward the old giants, who fell away in the strength of their foolishness. You see, because in the strength of their foolishness, they fall away because what? They were given it to idols. They were given it to other gods and to the gods of their mothers, right? Which were the daughters of men in that time, right? Like we said. So we're gonna read a little bit on this. We're not gonna just harp on the giants, because that's a topic for another day. So the point is right here. We're gonna start right here. 6 and 5. It says, and the Most High saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts in their hearts, so like of his heart, was only evil continually. So it was evil continual thoughts and wickedness that was going in into the minds of the people in the earth, right? But Noah, right, being that very few, right, in his household, like, were delivered, right, because he walked in a way that was pleasing to Yahweh Shai. And we want to read that, right? It says, and it repented the Lord that he made man on the earth, and grieved him in his heart, at his heart. It says, and the Lord said, I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, and the creeping thing, and the fowls of the air, for it repented me that I have made them. But Noah, right? See, this is the time of Noah. You see, a continuation of the 5th chapter that it ended off with mentioning Noah as being part of that lineage of the sons of God, right? And we're going to read that Noah, how he gave sacrifice, he built altars to Yahweh Shai, right? Ultimately, he had faith, right? But it says, but Noah found grace in the eyes of Yahweh Shai. When you read that, Noah found grace, meaning Noah found favor, right? It says grace meaning favor, grace, charm. So like, gotta heard something, right? It says favor, acceptance, right? So Noah was accepted by Yahweh Shai, right? Matter of fact, let's get this. Wisdom of Solomon 10. Oh, come on. Let me get it here. This is Wisdom of Solomon, the 10th chapter, and the 6th verse. 5. It says, moreover, the nations and their wickedness, in their wicked conspiracy being confounded, she found out the righteous, meaning wisdom, and preserved him blameless unto the Most High, and kept him strong against his tender compassion toward his son. It says, when an ungodly perished, she delivered the righteous man who fled from the fire which fell down upon the 5 cities, right? Sodom and Gomorrah, right? Just like it says, of whose wickedness even to this day, the wasteland that smoketh the testimony, plant bearing fruit, that never come to ripeness, and the stand up pillar souls, a monument of an unbelieving soul. It says, man, where is it when it mentions? Oh, I'm tripping. Up. Let me go up. I'm reading that. I'm supposed to be reading this, right? It says for verse 4. Salakia, right? It says for who's causing the earth being drowned with the flood, right? It says, I think we read that too. It says wisdom again preserved it. How? Because who? Noah gave heed to wisdom. Noah kept that order and righteous way. It says and directed the course of the righteous. He directed the wisdom directed the course of the righteous. Noah. It says in a piece of wood of small value. Because we're going to read that the Lord directed him to build what? That ark. It says moreover the nation in their wicked. Yeah, we read that, right? So that was the point, right? It shows that Noah, right? He kept that way, right? Let's jump to Sirach. Let's get another one. This is Sirach 44 and verse 17. You know, Salak, if it seems like I'm rushing, you know, I got a little bit of time. Gotta get the count. This is Sirach 44 and 17. It says Noah was found perfect. Noah was found perfect and righteous in the time of wrath. You see, he was taken in exchange for the world. Therefore was he left as a remnant unto the earth when the flood came. You see, so Noah and his household was likened to that remnant, that remnant in that time to escape, right? The end of that time. You see? So what we're seeing is that he was perfect and he was righteous in the eyes of Yahweh Shema Shai. It says that Noah walked with the Most High, right? It says in the time of wrath, he was taken in exchange for the world. You see, and it's going to be the same thing in these times, man. The elect in these times is likened to Noah in that time where they're going to be taken in exchange for the world. Because the scriptures tell you that the Lord loveth the gates of Zion more than the inhabitants of Israel, or Judah, just paraphrasing, right? So let's keep going. Back in Genesis, the 6th chapter. Right, we are in the, I forgot what verse it was in, 8. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. It says, these are the generations of Noah. Noah was a just man and perfect in his generation, and Noah walked with the Most High. See, it says, and Noah begat 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. It says, the earth was also corrupt before the Most High, and the earth was filled with violence. And the Most High looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted his way upon the earth, except Noah, right? So Noah walked in that way, right? So let's keep going. It says, and the Most High said unto Noah, the end of all flesh is come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them, and behold, I will destroy them with the earth. Make thee an ark of gopher wood, rooms shalt thou make in the ark, and shalt pitch it within and without the pit, without with pitch. It says, and in this the fashion which also thou shalt make it, of the length of the ark shall be 300 cubits, the breadth of the 5th cubit, and the height of the 30 cubit. So the Lord gave him the instructions on how to build, right? And he had to follow those instructions, in which he did. So as we continue to read, it says that what? It says, and take thou unto thee of all food that is eaten, and thou shalt gather it to thee, and it shall be for food for thee and for them. Thus did Noah according to the Most High commanded him. So did he. So as we read in the scriptures, when we read Hebrews the 11th chapter, it tells you that Noah moved with what? He moved with fear, right? And did as the Lord had commanded him. Right, so this shows that Noah was a man after the heart of Yahweh Shema Shai. This is Hebrews 11:7. It says, by faith Noah being warned of the Most High. So by faith, nothing else but by his faith, because he believed. Right, when the masses, no one else in that time believed that it was going to rain, that a flood was going to come, so on and so forth. They didn't believe that. Right, it says, by faith Noah being warned of the Most High of things not seen as yet, moved with fear. Right, and we ought to do the same thing as preparing our ark, preparing that spiritual ark, man. Preparing, right, moving with fear to escape. Prepare an ark to the saving of his house. Prepare an ark to the saving of his house, by the which he commanded the world, and became heir of righteousness, which is by faith. So him by faith he became the heir of righteousness, and that's what that's what it's about. It's about our faith in Yahweh Shema Shai, and we see that Noah had faith. And Noah moved with fear. You see? So he did, all throughout the scripture we read that Noah did as the Lord had commanded, man. And that he was, he received that favor of Yahweh Shema Shai. Right? So as we understand that, now we're going to continue to go in and show that Noah, as we got the understanding that Noah moved with fear, Noah was a man after the heart of Yahweh Shema Shai, we want to show that Noah himself, that law, was passed down to him, and that he had it himself. Right? He had that law also in his time. Right? So this is Genesis. We're gonna read 8. Right? We're gonna get to where he built that altar. So it says the flood subsides. So it says, and the Most High remembered Noah and every living thing, all the cattle that was with him in the ark, and the Most High made the wind to pass over the earth, and the waters assuaged. It says the fountains also of the deep and the windows of heaven were stopped, and the rain from heaven was restrained. So okay, everything was done. Right? So when we continue to read down, right, this is what happened. Let's see. I want to start. So when we read 13, we want to see that he came out of the ark. He seen that it was dry, right? Because I believe he sent like a dove out of the ark to see if the dove would, like, what would happen, if it would come back, right? So on and so forth, to see if the ground was still wet, right? So we're gonna get straight to the point. 18. It says, and Noah went forth, and his sons and his wife and his sons' wives were with him. Every beast, every creeping thing, and every fowl, and whatsoever creepeth upon the earth after their kind went forth out of the ark. And Noah builded an altar unto the Lord, to Yahweh. In all caps, right? It says, and took of every clean beast and of every clean fowl, and offered burnt offerings on the altar. And the Lord smelled the sweet savor. So the Lord accepted his sacrifice. Here, Noah is giving a sacrifice. And the Lord smelled his sweet savor. It says, and the Lord said in his heart, I will not again curse the ground any more for man's sake, for the imaginations of man's heart is evil from his youth. Neither will I again smite any more every living thing as I have done, while the earth remaineth. Seed time and harvest, and cold and heat, and summer and winter, and day and night shall not cease. You see, and it has not ceased, right? But the Lord had promised not to flood the earth again, right? But what he's going to do, and what he did was sent that signet of promise, which will be the rainbow, which the world had converted to wickedness ultimately, you know. But here we see that Noah built an altar, right? He built the altar to Yahweh Shemashai, and his sacrifice was received, right? The Lord received his sacrifice, man. You see? So we're seeing here that Noah, right, him having given sacrifice and building the altar is a key indicator that Noah had the law, right, in the name of Yahweh Shemashai, because he had to offer it up to the Lord. You see? Next, let's keep going. Let's see else another point, how, you know, because it's right behind each other, showing that Noah had that law, right? So let's keep going. Let's see. Covenant of the rainbow, right? It says, and the Most High blessed Noah and his sons, and said unto them, be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth. It says, and the fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth, and every fowl of the air, upon all that moveth upon the earth, and upon the fishes of the sea, until your hand are they delivered. Every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you, and every green herb have I given you all things. But flesh with the life thereof, which is the blood thereof, shall ye not eat. So there, you know, just giving them the order and the instruction, right? So let's just keep going down, because I want to get straight to the point. I don't want to take too long. I got to get the count. He told them to be fruitful and multiply, gave them the order of everything and how to do it, what they needed to do. Let's keep going. All right, this right here. So this is a verse. I'm gonna start at verse 17. It says, and the Most High said unto Noah, this is the token of the covenant which I will establish between me and all flesh upon the earth. This is what we mentioned. It says, because he had given that token, right? It says, and the sons of Noah that went forth out of the ark were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And Ham is the father of Canaan. Right now, what's the word I'm looking for? It emphasized that Ham is the father of Canaan. Let's figure out why. These are the 3 sons of Noah, and of them was the whole earth overspread, right? So they replenished it, right? It says, and Noah began to be a husbandman, and he planted a vineyard, and he drank of the wine and was drunken, and he was uncovered within his tent, so he was naked. It says, and Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father, and told his 2 brethren without. And Shem and Japheth took a garment and laid it upon both of their shoulders, and went backward and covered the nakedness of their father, and their faces were backward, and they saw not their father's nakedness, right? Why? Because in the law, showing that they had the law, again, right? This is why. Let's get it. So remember, it said that Ham seen his father's nakedness, right? This is Leviticus, the 18th chapter, in the 6th verse. It says, none of you shall approach to any that is near of kin to him to uncover their nakedness. I am the Lord. The nakedness of thy father or the nakedness of thy mother shalt thou not uncover. She is thy mother, and thou shalt not uncover her nakedness. Right? And it goes to the nakedness, you know, the near kin unto you, so on and so forth. Right? Your son's daughter, the daughter's daughter, and all this other good stuff. Right? You can read it, you know, but the point that I wanted to get is that you're not supposed to uncover the nakedness of your father. Right? And Ham, right, having the law, knowing the law, what did he do? He saw the nakedness of his father, and this is what happened. It says, and Noah awoke from his wine and knew what his younger son had done unto him, and he said, cursed be Canaan. He didn't curse Ham, but he did what? Cursed be Canaan, for Ham is the father of Canaan. So he said what? Cursed be Canaan. He cursed his seed, right? Them Hamites, right? A servant of servants shall he be unto his brethren, man. See, so he cursed his ass, man. You see, because he seen his nakedness. It says that goes and show also that they had the law. It says, and he said, blessed be the Lord power of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. It says, the Most High shall enlarge Japheth, right? It says, and he shall dwell in the tents of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant, right? Also, you know, you can go into these things to see who these people are also. It says, and Noah lived after the flood 350 years, and the days of Noah were 950 years, and he died. So we read the 29th verse, we see that Noah died, man, right? So after Noah died, what do? We see that it trickles on down. We're going to keep going. We're going to jump to the 10th chapter, the descendants of Noah. So it's given, you can see from the 5th chapter, it gave descendants of Adam. Then it stopped with Noah. Then it gave the time of Noah, right? And we continue to read into the flood, what happened after the flood. And then we get to the descendants of Noah, right? So let's keep going. Let's figure this out. We're going to track down Abraham, and then I end it off because I got to get out of here. It says, now these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Unto him were sons born after the flood. It says the sons of Japheth, not the Edomites. It says Gomer, Magog, and Madai. It says in Javan, Tubal, and Meshach, and Tyrus. Right, so we can keep reading. This is another lesson I'm gonna do too, going into Japheth, right? Being what the Polynesians, the seafaring people, right? The Etruscans, the Minoan, Minoan people, right? The Hawaiian people. It says, and the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, right, which goes back to Japheth. It says Rapath and Togarmah, right? But I just want to jump down to the point because I don't want to veer off. But we seeing that genealogy, right? So we're gonna jump to the genealogy of Shem, right? Which is who we come from, right? And we're gonna see what happens, right? So this is Genesis 10 and verse 20. It says, and these are the sons of Ham after their families and after their tongues and their countries and their nations. And these are the sons of Ham, right? Canaan, so on and so forth, right? So it says, unto Shem also the father of all the children of Eber, the brother of Japheth, the elder, even to him were children born, right? So when we're reading about, so let's keep going. It says, the children of Shem, which were Elam, Ashur, Arphaxad, right? It says, and Lud and Aram. And the children of Aram, Uz, Hol, Gether, Mash. It says, and Arphaxad begat Salah, Salah begat Eber, right? And we read in this time, it says, and unto Eber were born 2 sons. The name of one was Peleg, for in his days was the earth divided. It says, and his brother's name was Joktan, right? And we read about Eber, right? And we read about like the Tower of Babel. We continue to read on. We read the 11th chapter, right? Let's just get it right quick since we read Eber, right? This is Genesis 11 and verse 12. See, so descendants of Shem, what we're just reading. These are the generations of Shem. Shem was 100 years old and begat Arphaxad 2 years after the flood. So this is that lineage being tracked. It says, and Shem lived and begat Arphaxad 500 years and begat sons and daughters. And Arphaxad lived 530 years and begat Salah. And Arphaxad lived after he begot Salah 403 years and begat sons and daughters. And Salah lived 300 years and begat Eber. Right? It says, and Salah lived after he begat Eber 403 years and begat sons and daughters. And Eber lived 430 years and begat Peleg. Right now, Eber is an important piece, right, in our history, because through Eber, right, we were able to keep that holy tongue in the earth, right, that Hebrew tongue, right, because through Eber, him not being partakers of building that Tower of Babel, what a language is what confounded what we read about when we skip up, right, the universal language, Babel, confusion, so the languages were confounded, right, so when we read it, the only language that wasn't confounded was ours, right, we were able to keep it, right, through Eber. So let's keep it. It says, so the Lord scattered them abroad from thence. I read up. It says, in the face of all the earth, and they left off to build the city. Therefore the name of the name is called Babel, because the Lord did there confounded the language of all the earth, and from thence did the Lord scatter them abroad upon the face of the earth. So this is how, you know, the language was confounded, but we were able to keep, right, the holy tongue in the earth through Eber, right? And you can look this up. You can read about Eber. Ooh, right? It says Eber. It says, what I want to read from. Alright, I'll just read from right here. It says, is an ancestor of the Ishmaelites and the Israelites. And this is what gave Ishmael hope. As a matter of fact, the next video I'm going to do is be going into Ishmael last, right? It says, and in the Israelites. It said, then the important ones are you Israelites, right? It says, according to the generations of Noah, right, the book of Genesis 10 through 11, the books of Chronicles, right? It says Eber, Hebrew, right? It says was a grandson of Noah, the son of Shem, and the father of Peleg, born when Eber was 34 years old, and Joktan, he was the son of Shelah, a distant ancestor of Abraham. According to the Hebrew Bible, Eber died at the age of 464. It says, let me see. Let me just skip down to the point. All right, so you got the Hebrew section right here. Damn, I keep doing that. All right, you got the Hebrew section right here. It says the 13th century Muslim damn, that shit blowing me. It says Abu Fida relates the story, noting that the patriarch Eber, the great grandson of Shem, refused to help with building the Tower of Babel. As a result, his language was not confounded, so like you're not confused. When the tower was abandoned, he and his family alone retained the original, which it says Arabic language, which is the Hebrew really. It says which he identified as Hebrew, a language named after Eber. So there you go. Right, so we were able to keep that holy tongue right in the earth through Eber, right? So let's just keep reading, right? It says, and Peleg lived 30 years and begat Ru. It says, and Peleg lived, and after he begat Ru, 209 years and begat sons and daughters. And Ru lived 230 years and begat Serug. It says, and Ru lived after he begat Serug. It says 207 years and begat sons and daughters. And Serug lived 30 years and begat Nahor, right, which is the grandfather of Abraham, right? It says, and Serug, I read that, and Nahor lived and begat Salakia. And Nahor lived 920 years and begat Terah. And Nahor lived after he begat Terah 119 years and begat sons and daughters. And Terah lived 70 years and begat Abram, Nahor, and Haran. So Abram, there you go. He begat Abram. Terah begat Abram, which was changed to Abraham. It says these are the generations of Terah. Terah begat Abram, Nahor, and Haran begat Lot, right? And it says, and Haran died before his father Terah, in the land of their nativity is Ur the Chaldean. So we see that Abraham was born in a land of idols, and we're going to go into that history and read about Abraham also, right? It says, and Abram and Nahor took them wives. The name of Abram's wife was Sarah. See, it says, and the name of Nahor's wife was Milcah, and the daughter of Haran, the father of Milcah, the father of Ishkar. It says, and Sarah was barren, she had no child. It says, and Terah took Abram his son, and Lot the son of Haran, and his son's sons, and Sarah his daughter-in-law, and his son's Abram's wife, and they went forth with them from Ur of the Chaldeans, which was a land of idols. It says to go into the land of Canaan. It says, and they came into Haran and dwelt there. So you know that history of them, them migrating and traveling, right? So that's really it. I just wanted to do a continuation, right? And hold on, matter of fact, we're reading about Abraham. We're reading about Abram. I'm not going to go deep into it because I'm going to do another lesson on it, right? We're seeing that law and everything, that name and everything was trickled on down, right, to Abram being Abraham, right? Which latter he begat Isaac, right? Isaac begat Jacob, which that chosen lineage of promise, which Romans the 9th chapter is speaking about, right? Who are Israelites according to the flesh, that pertain to adoptions, covenants to glory, the promises, so on and so forth, man. You see, so we track from Adam to Noah, from Noah to Abraham, man, right here, man. You see? So this is that chosen lineage, showing that that the name of Yahweh Shemel Shah was in the earth, right? These men who knew who the Lord were, and it is a scripture where it says that Abraham, I'll go into it, right? It's a scripture was, a lot of Christians like to try and pull, saying that Abraham didn't know the name of the Lord, which he did, right? So, Lord willing, I pray the lesson was edifying. I got to get out of here. I got to get the camp. You just want to, excuse me. All right, just wanted to track that real quick. Track that lineage, showing that Noah had the law, right? The name of Yahweh Shemel Shai, right? Lord willing, I pray this lesson was edifying. I'm going to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bashemel Shai, Bashem Karadash. I'm going to give the honor to the apostle and elders of every millstone who will teach well. And peace and say, takes your icon, influence, push the truth and sincerity and diligence. Till next time, shalom.